The Salvation Army for many years now, because the Salvation Army partner us in our 3BA Christmas in July appeal, which we are launching next week on the airwaves and right across Ballarat. So it certainly is a very proud moment for us, and let us say that 3BA is very grateful that the Salvation Army can be a part of our appeal, as I am of theirs today. The Red Shield appeal is one of those appeals that helps out, as I said, over 100,000 people each year, and I could go through all the stats and all the figures, but you're going to hear from some people today who'll not only give you that, but a lot more, and you can see a lot of it on our big screen as well. To start the morning off, I'd like to welcome our VIPs, Major Leanne Ruthven, also Major Brendan Nottle, Lieutenant Kimberly Ashmore, Andrew Boatman as the representative for Federal Member of Ballarat, Catherine King, and also Councillor Jim Rinaldi. Would you please make those people welcome today? I'd like to introduce our first guest, who is Marjorie Pigford, who's going to give an acknowledgement of country. Auntie Marjorie Pigford, as she's fondly known, is an elder of the Watchabolik people. Marjorie is the board chairperson of Ballarat District Aboriginal Cooperative as well, and also the Koori Engagement Support Officer for the Department of Education and Training. She's a very busy lady. Would you please welcome Auntie Marjorie?
My name is Marjorie Pickford. I'm a Watchabolik woman, native title holder and traditional owner of the Wimmera Mallee. I'm also a member of the Ballarat Aboriginal community, respected elder and chairperson of the Ballarat and District Aboriginal Cooperative Board of Directors. Today I would like to acknowledge we are meeting and talking on the 2018 Red Shield appeal launch on this country of the Wathaurong people, of which members and elders of the Wathaurong community and their forebearers have been custodians for many years. On this land, the Wathaurong people have performed age-old culture, ceremonies, celebrations, initiations and renewal. Today we acknowledge the living culture and a unique role in the life of this region. History is not a mystery, it's living history for Wathaurong people to share along with other Aboriginal people. Today I would like to pay my respects to their elders past and present and any Aboriginal people in the room today. I would also like to thank the Wathaurong people for allowing the Salvation Army Ballarat Community Church for having their Red Shield appeal launch on their country and for allowing me to do acknowledgement to country. I would like to thank you for your kind invitation to be here today, and I would like to extend an invitation to everyone here today to visit our premises at the Armstrong Street site anytime, and also join us celebrating NAIDOC Week, which is Natural Aboriginal and Islander Day of Commemoration, week starting on the 9th of July. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Marjorie today. We have two op shops, one in Ballarat here and one in Creswick, and often we get unusual things come through our op shops. We had something come through just recently which really touched our hearts, and we didn't want to sell it, and we didn't want to sell it for a very good reason. It's Aboriginal art by Sadie Carrington, and we want to present it to you today to display at Bannock. And it's worth a lot of money, I know that because I checked it up. We could have sold it for a fortune, but we want you guys to have it because it's important work for your community.
Thank you very much. This will probably be displayed in our new building, which is alongside the Aboriginal
I'm going to invite now Major Paul Beeson. He's going to offer grace, and we're going to enjoy our lunch. Thank you.
Let's bow as we join the word of grace. Father, we thank you for the fact that we join together here as brothers and sisters in your Son's name. We ask that as we share a meal together and as we share fellowship together, that you will bless this food to our use and us to your service. Amen.
Thank you, Major Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, your entree is about to be served, and as I mentioned, please take advantage of what's coming up on the big screen with our slide point presentations to give you some facts and figures on the Salvation Army Red Shield appeal. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. It's good to be here, and I represent the Salvation Army of the state of Victoria this morning. What does the Salvation Army mean to a community as a whole? All around Australia, over this last couple of weeks, gatherings like this have been happening. People like Bridie have been running around, getting everything organised, and people will be knocking on doors, they will be standing at the train stations. It is wonderful how the Salvation Army community gets behind the Salvation Army, and so we thank you for that. I want to tell you one very short story about an end result, a good news story. A few years ago I was working in our Melbourne office, and a great administrative disaster happened in that our diaries weren't ordered on time for the next year. Remember those paper things we used to write our appointments in? Someone had messed up the diary order, and it was left to me to sort it out. So I rang the company in question and got a very nice lady on the phone. And I explained to her the situation about how dreadful it would be if we didn't get our diaries in time for next year. "Can you do anything to help me?" I said. And she said, "Well, look, it really is a bit late." But she said, "I'm going to help you because a long time ago I decided that I would never say no to the Salvation Army." So I asked her a little bit about that, and she said, "When I was a girl, a young girl, my mother, my siblings and I were in a dire situation, and the Salvation Army helped us out." She didn't give any other details, but years and years down the track, here is someone who says, "Thank you for what the Salvation Army did for me." We don't do this so that people like me can have a diary for next year. We do it so that people like the woman on the phone can reach her potential. Everybody is precious to God and deserves to have the opportunity to thrive. God created each person. He loves each person. And the Red Shield appeal is about the Salvation Army being able to enable people to thrive, to reach their full potential in life. All around Australia there are vulnerable people who, if somebody doesn't help them, they will not thrive, they will not flourish. In Ballarat here, some statistics. Of 100 clients who presented at charities asking for help for themselves or their families recently, 78% said they were either moderately or severely hungry. 80% said they had run out of food and could not afford to buy more. 72% of those people had gone for 1 to 2 days in the past week without eating at all. This is children as well that we're talking about. 1 in 5 of those people did not have cooking or refrigerator facilities. 55% of them didn't have a car to be able to get around and do the things they needed to do. Every person is made in the image of God, and God loves them and they are precious to Him. And as a community, if one person is not thriving, then it affects us all. To misquote the English poet John Donne, no one is an island. When some hurt, we all hurt. The Salvation Army is about providing assistance so that people can live in healthy communities, they can reach their potential, they can know that God loves them, and they can flourish in life. Thank you for all that you will do for the Red Shield Appeal in this area today. The service that you give is not taken for granted. It's hard work. It's hard work. So thank you to those who will collect. Thank you to the Ballarat community who will support the Salvation Army in this way to enable people to flourish. God bless you.
Thank you, Leanne. I think most of us have got a meal in front of us. Would you like to enjoy your meal now? Sure, let's do that. Enjoy each other's company, and we'll be back with you shortly. I hope you all enjoyed your lunch, ladies and gentlemen. I believe the chicken was on steroids. That's the largest piece of chicken I've ever seen in my life. It was very nice, though. Again, big thanks to the team in the kitchen for a very nice main meal. Sure, why not? Andrew was supposed to be up here to do this next little bit, and he will be, but I'm sort of going off script here a little bit, and Charlie's having heart palpitations about this, and I'm sorry, Charlie, I really am. But there's someone I'd really like to acknowledge here today. I've been with 3BA for 31 and a half years now, and in that 31 and a half years have been associated with a gentleman by the name of Peter Caligari. Peter was the general manager of 3BA for many of the years that I've been there. Then he retired, and in his retirement he continued to work, and that work was associated with the 3BA Christmas in July appeal and the 3BA Christmas appeal at the end of the year proper. And of course that appeal helps out not only the Salvation Army but United, Anglicare and St Vincent de Paul. This man lived and breathed those appeals, and this year, unfortunately, due to poor health, he can no longer continue to be our appeal director, unfortunately. And health, as always, comes first. I spoke to Peter yesterday. He didn't sound very well at all, but having said that, continued to help me to garner up a lot of contacts and a lot of donations for a big trivia night we're having for the Christmas in July appeal, which is launching next Tuesday, and also for the annual uni lunch that we have in August as well. So Peter is a very, very big loss to both the appeals, and I'd just like to acknowledge a man who has done so much for this community off his own back. He's never asked for anything in return. He certainly doesn't ask for thanks, and when he's given thanks, he doesn't like it very much at all, because he does what he does because he loves doing it and he loves this community and just wants to lend a hand. So to Peter Caligari, I'd like to say thank you very much.
But Jess is a volunteer in our food program, and she coordinates the Salvo's Cafe 102 every Tuesday. And when she does it, she plans the meals similar to what you've had today, and she preps it and she serves the three-course meal to the community every Tuesday. So if we can get her out here. Where are you, Jess? There she goes. Come on up, Jess. Come give her another hand. Give her some encouragement. Nervous? She's nervous. You've got to come close to the mic there. closer. That's it. That's fine. So, Jess, would you mind just telling us a little bit about why you came to the Salvos? How many years ago was that?
About 15 years ago, I came to the Salvos from family violence. A few of the people here reminded me family violence ain't okay. They helped me through it. Yeah.
It's a hard point for you, those memories. So you have received a bit of help here. How did they get you back on your feet?
They showed me that you can mingle with other people. It's not just about at home. I'm not sure how to answer that.
How did they treat you?
Treated me wonderful. I wouldn't go anywhere but for the Salvos. It's actually my world now. I love volunteering.
Fantastic. This has been a long journey for you. There's been times where you've been up, there's been times where you've been down, and those down times, you disappeared for a while. And tell me, what was it like coming back?
It was awesome coming back, and I do have a lot of downs when I get memories. Like, my family violence hasn't completely gone away because even though I'm not with him, he still annoys me. So I don't know how to deal with it sometimes, so I close down and shut myself into walls where I don't have to deal with it.
So you've come and you've joined us here helping out with the meals program. You're giving back. How does that make you feel? What does that make you feel in relation to you?
It's awesome. It's actually nice giving back because this church helped me get out of my hole. And I just do want to give back. Every chance I can give back, I will. I'd rather actually volunteer than a real job because when I had a real job, that made me a little bit sad because I couldn't come here anymore.
Fantastic. So what do you got to say about the Salvos?
They're an awesome place if you need help. The Salvos is the place to come because everybody in the Salvos help with open hands. They don't turn anyone away. Yeah.
I'll end your misery. You can go back now to the kitchen. Would you give her a hand? Thank you, Jess.
What a beautiful story. And if the Salvos can invite me here today, they'll invite anyone, trust me. Your dessert is about to be served, ladies and gentlemen, if you can fit it in after the first two courses. And while that is going on, you're going to be hearing some sweet, sweet music, I believe, from the lovely Major Jeanette Van Galen. So please make her welcome.
Sudden healing to think that
thank you to my lovely wife, Jeanette. I'm very proud, what can I say? You can catch her at basketball games singing the national anthem all over the joint, so. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Major Brendan Nottle. And Major Brendan, he works tirelessly to provide support to homeless and disadvantaged people at the Salvation Army Melbourne Project 614. Brendan has 22 years' experience working with people on the fringe of society. He is a member of the Premier's ICE Action Task Force and the Victorian Housing Minister's Rough Sleepers Roundtable. On the 8th of September 2017, Brendan embarked on a 40-day journey, walking more than 700 kilometres from Melbourne to the front of Parliament House in Canberra, visiting communities along the way. Brendan heard first-hand accounts of their experiences of homelessness. Brave man walking that far. He's got to take a few more steps. He's going to come up here right now. Would you welcome him?
Good afternoon. Fantastic to be here, and what a wonderful lunch. I'll let you in on a little secret. The way Sandra and I relax sometimes is to watch MasterChef. Anybody watch MasterChef? Yeah. Few? My Kitchen Rules? Yeah. Few? No, up the back. All right. Thanks for working with me. It's great. And one of the things that the chefs say that really stuck with me is we eat with our wives. And one of the things that hit me this afternoon was this food is sensational. Like, it tastes beautiful, but it actually looks great too, doesn't it? And it's one of the powerful things about the Salvation Army and other services as well, but we don't just slop food on a person's plate. We actually present it in a way which screams dignity and respect. And that's what we've got this afternoon. Absolutely fantastic. So thanks to all the volunteers. I sort of feel like I'm in a room with my heroes today. Jeanette, at home, I sing to my heart's content. My family say, nah, don't do it. Don't sing. You can't sing. That was just sensational. Thanks, Jeanette. And wonderful to hear from Kimberly and John before about what's happening at the local level. You people at the back that are delivering the service day in, day out, you're our heroes. Leanne talking about what we're doing across the board in Victoria. And then Paul, I'm not making this up, my favourite radio station, 3BA. I love it. So I was sitting next to a 3BA announcer, I can't believe it. I haven't said much because I'm in awe, but anyway, it's fantastic to be here, and I just wanted to just give you a little bit of an overview as some of the things that are happening in Melbourne, but also some of the things that we've seen happening across the board in terms of homelessness. Back in 2014, the City of Melbourne conducted a street count where they counted the number of rough sleepers, and they found that the number was 142. 2 years later, that number jumped to 247. It was a 74% increase. And I'm not sure if you've got the media coverage up here, but it was just blanket coverage in Melbourne where there was this tension between police and council and government and agencies. All this finger pointing was going on, saying it's your fault that the number has jumped so much. And when we actually stopped and listened to the stories of people that were homeless or at risk of homelessness, we heard time and time and time again that those people's homelessness very rarely, if ever, started on the streets of Melbourne. They started in suburbs and regional rural areas many, many years earlier. And that was one of the key drivers for me to walk to Canberra, was I just wanted to hear the stories. And I remember, I'll never forget this, we walked through a town in northern Victoria, and on the Tuesday night I went home just overwhelmed, went back to a caravan, and just overwhelmed with the stories that we heard from Salvation Army workers from other agencies about how they were just getting smashed with people that needed accommodation. And these poor workers in this town had no way of meeting the need. They were just completely overwhelmed. The next day we walked into that town and we met mayor and councillors, and the mayor pulled me aside and he said, I'm not sure why we're doing this, because we don't have an issue with homelessness in this town. It was just this incredible juxtaposition between what we heard from service deliverers the night before to council, the decision makers, the next day. And it reminded me powerfully that sometimes when we walk through those towns, the assumption was homelessness was a non-issue in those towns because it could not be seen. And yet the reality is that in towns, and I'm hearing it again today through that excellent presentation from Kimberly, that often in country towns, regional rural areas, homelessness absolutely exists, but it's hidden in the sense that it might be couch surfing. You've got young people that stay on a friend's place for a couple of nights and they get moved on to another place, and on it goes. You've got families escaping family violence and there's no emergency services for them to go to in their local area, so they go and stay with friends and then they get moved on. And it's this powerful reminder that homelessness is insidious, it's all over the place, and just because we don't see it doesn't mean that we are not experiencing it in our local community. We got to Canberra and we met federal politicians from all persuasions. And we had one very clear message on that day, and it's backed up by another resounding message from the Salvation Army this day. The message back then was we desperately need a national plan around this issue of homelessness. And it needs to be multi-party, a multi-party approach. It can't just be government, everybody pointing finger at them. It has to be a multi-partisan approach. And it's got to be actually about saying, let's look at what's happening in regional and rural areas, let's see the gaps in service delivery, and let's resource those services so that when a child experiences violence, or when a child witnesses violence in the home and there's trauma, let's address that trauma at that early age so that it doesn't develop into a serious mental health issue that requires the person to self-medicate, and then it's a slippery slope into homelessness. Let's address the issue early, let's get onto it, and let's resource those services very, very quickly. So we've got a good response, but no action. And that's the message that we need to continue to pound to our federal leaders, is we need a national plan. The other message that the Salvation Army is communicating nationally today is that they've conducted research right across the country with people that come to our emergency services. And they've found that if a person's on New Start, so the generalisation of that figure is about $580 a fortnight, they'll have $17 a day left after they've paid accommodation. $17 a day left, and that's to pay for food, that's to pay for transport, that's to pay for phone bills, $17 a day. And so today the Salvation Army is calling on, again, our multi-party leaders to add $75 a week to the New Start allowance so that people, they're not going to experience a luxurious life, they'll just be able to survive. And that's what the Salvation Army is asking our federal leaders to do today. When we returned from being in Canberra, the need was just overwhelming. So back in Melbourne, we run 3 cafes now out of the same building. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, we open our Lighthouse Cafe, and we see about 120, 130 people for breakfast. Most of those are homeless. At lunch, we see 200 to 250 people. So there's a lot of people come through the place. We close at 1:30, and then we reopen at 5 p.m, and we go through to 11 p.m, 7 nights a week. We see about 100, 110 people each night. Most of those are homeless. And then at 11 o'clock, we pull all the furniture out of our cafe, and we open the doors at 11 through to 7 a.m, and we see anywhere between 140 to 160 people come and just sleep on the floor. And when we started that program with some council funding about 12 months ago, council said to us, if you have less than 20 people at night, then it's not financially viable to continue. We see between 140 to 160 every night, and they come and sleep on a piece of concrete. They have a toasted sandwich and a cup of tea. And one of the things that stuns me is the Council of Homeless Persons, who are the peak homeless body here in Victoria, conducted some research of people using our night cafe. And one of the questions they asked was, why do you come here? 87% of people interviewed said they come to the night cafe and sleep on a piece of concrete and have a toasted sandwich and a cup of tea because it gives them hope. It gives them hope. So I read this and I walked away and I thought, surely we've messed this up. That can't be right. And then I started to talk to the staff, and it's actually the staff and the volunteers that night in, night out do this remarkable job where they build this incredible sense of community. In fact, it's more than that. We have people that fill in little survey sheets and they say, this is my family. That's what the Salvation Army does. You know, when the Salvation Army is at its best, it's actually providing family for the most vulnerable in our community, for people that otherwise would just fall through the gaps. And it's a stunning thing to be part of, to actually see that some of the most vulnerable, who others have forgotten, actually feel that in the Salvation Army Centre they're actually experiencing family. And we're able to deliver these services day in, day out, night in, night out, similar to what John was describing before, because we get the remarkable support of the broader community. So local businesses will turn up and they'll drop off sandwiches, they'll drop off leftover croissants that they haven't sold that day, and we're able to use those. And we have corporate groups and other businesses come and volunteer. And one particular night we had some volunteers from Crown came, and they were doing a great job. So we've got it's like a bar, and that's where we serve the coffee, and it's where we serve the sandwiches. And so the volunteers from Crown were there serving. And a man came into the night cafe and he had his backpack on, and he went up to one of our workers and he said, "Is it okay if I bring my pet in tonight?" So the worker said, "Well, I suppose it depends what the pet is." So he reaches into his backpack and he pulls out a crayfish, and it's live. And he says, "This is Claude," and Claude's sort of flapping around in this person's hands. And then he goes over to the counter where the Crown volunteers are, and he's got no idea who these people are, and he says, "Oh, do you want to meet Claude?" And I said, "Wow, okay, we didn't expect to see Claude here tonight. Where did you get Claude?" And he said, "Oh, don't tell anyone, but if you go down to Crown, there's a little laneway." And he said, "They don't lock the door, they're a bit stupid down there." And he said, "You just go and stick your hand in the big tank and you just take them out. I've been knocking them off for the past couple of weeks," he said. So one of the people from Crown said, "Claude looks a little bit sort of slow, we'd love to look after Claude and make sure Claude stays alive." So this person said, "Oh, fantastic." So he handed Claude back to these Crown people who, this is absolutely true, were from security and surveillance at Crown. So they called a security van that came and picked up Claude and drove him back to keep him alive. But we get the most amazing people that come to participate and volunteer. And we've had Jordan De Goey, one of the Collingwood footballers who got himself into trouble earlier this year, and his punishment, the club said in the media, was to come and spend 4 weeks with me. So that makes me feel sensational. But he comes in every Saturday night, and he did that for his 4 weeks, but he continues to come in every week. And a couple of weeks ago, Collingwood were playing Geelong on the Sunday, and I rang him at 8 o'clock and I said, "Have you finished at the cafe?" And he said, "No, I love it, I'm going to stay a little while longer." I rang him at 10 o'clock, "Have you finished? How did you go?" He said, "No, I'm still here." So I texted him back as a good Collingwood supporter and I said, "Do you realise you have a game tomorrow?" He said, yeah, it'll be fine. And then we went through our suggestions box, and our operations manager said to me, "Someone's written that they'd love Jordan De Goey to be here every night because he's doing such a fantastic job." So I thought, I'll ring Jordan and I'll just say, just a word of encouragement, "You're doing a great job." And I told him, and he said, "That was me that put that in the suggestion box." It's a cheeky boy. But I mention these stories simply to say that when we're working with homelessness, this issue of homelessness, we can often think to ourselves, it is so complex, I just don't know where to start. And I think there's a couple of things that are really important to remember. One is, it's really easy to think, we'll just drive a van around and feed people, or we might put on a nice lunch and we'll just feed people. And feeding people is good, food security is important, but we've got to reflect on this question. Does our help, or does it actually harm? Does our help actually alleviate the issue, or does it entrench it? And it's a really important question to ask, because if we're just simply providing food for people or opening the doors and letting people come and sleep on the floor, and we're not actually building connection with people and helping them feel like a human being again, then we're missing the mark. And it is so important in any engagement that we get involved in to reflect on, am I actually helping this person start to feel human again? Are they experiencing their humanity when they're with me? And we have corporates that often say to us, I see beggars and I'm not sure, should I give them money? And we just say, why don't you buy 2 cups of coffee? Why don't you have one for them and one for you, and just sit down and have a chat? And it actually transforms people. It's really quite remarkable. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about places like this and places right throughout the Western region and right across Victoria, is that the Salvation Army and other services, they've moved away from this concept of the transactional model of care where people just turn up and we hand them something and send them on their way. And we actually recognise that we're absolutely passionate and committed to transforming people's lives. And the best way to do that is to actually sit and engage and listen, and then go to work together in bringing about change. I won't go on any longer, I'll leave it there, but I just really want to encourage you, if there's some way you can do 2 things over the next couple of weeks, the Salvation Army would be deeply indebted to you. 1, if you can support the Salvation Army Red Shield Appeal, that would be fantastic, because our centre and centres like this are great recipients of Salvation Army donors' generosity, and we couldn't function without the support of people getting behind the Red Shield Appeal. And secondly, if you see someone that's doing it tough, hey, take the opportunity just to have a conversation, just to engage and treat them as a human. If you've got a little bit of extra time, I'm sure centres like this would love to hear from you. Just drop in and just chat with people and start to make them feel human again. I'll leave it there. Have a wonderful... You've had dessert. I haven't. I'm about to have my dessert. Cup of tea and coffee, and look forward to sharing with you either tea and coffee. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. It's one thing to see the problem, it's another thing to hear and have a picture painted about the problem that is out there and what is happening through services like the Salvation Army and helping people change their lives. So thank you again, Brendan. We've got a few people to thank for this afternoon. So if, give me a couple of seconds and I'll do that. And I want to thank Paul. Thank you, Paul, for emceeing this event, a last minute thing, but we very appreciate what you have done here today. Also like to thank Major Brendan for speaking earlier. Thank you for what you're doing. It's an important role that Leanne's got. It's a big role, and we'll continue to support you in prayer. Also want to thank John for the words that he brought. What we do here is quite large. It may not be as large as 614 in Melbourne, but it is massive. And John is a fantastic team leader, a fantastic person to have on my staff, and I appreciate everything that he does. He's a magnificent man. So thank Kimberly, Lieutenant Kimberly Ashmore, for what you brought us as well, the stories, the problems that you shared with us, but the solutions as well. Big thank you to the students from Federation College. Where are they? Out the back there. They served us well. My lunch is still waiting for me. Television, news and all the rest of it. We also want to thank Chandala Pianta for organising the students and bring them here today. Thank you so much. I want to thank Jeanette. Big thank you. I'll give you thanks later, right? So it's all good. For the beautiful song. She has a gorgeous voice, and I appreciate it every morning when she sings in the shower, so I'm a lucky man. We want to thank also our volunteers. They're in the kitchen. Can we get them out? I'll encourage them out. Hello, volunteers. They're not going to come out, you know. They're just not going to come out, so we'll just leave it there. But they do this on a weekly basis. They cook up a meal like you've had today, and they serve. It's increasing, friends. The meals program is increasing here, and my feeling is that it's going to increase and increase and increase. So a big thank you for the volunteers who work tirelessly. We've got 140 volunteers on the books here, and not just for the meals program, but for other areas that we have around this site. And they do a fantastic job. They do it selflessly. They do it because they just love doing what they do. They love helping other people. And as Brendan has already suggested, if you can support us in any way, on your tables, in your bags just now, you have slips of paper with donations. There's a person on each table that will take those donations. So if you can help in that way, that would be highly appreciated. Other ways you can help, we've got the Red Shield Bill this coming week. We need people to help us volunteer. Perhaps you could organise a team from your workplace. Perhaps you would like to jump in and help out as well. We do intersection collecting. If you want to get fit, come and join us on the intersections. All right? We'll gladly appreciate every bit of help that you can give. We have shopping centres where we sit down and collect. Perhaps you could do that. Whatever you can do to help us, we would appreciate it very much. Well, there's all the volunteers out the back there. One more big thank you to Karen, who's standing over there, she's saying, please don't put me out. Charlie, stand up, Charlie. And Bridie, where are you, Bridie? These three ladies did a fantastic job in organising this today, and appreciation for helping us raise awareness of the Salvation Army's work and the Red Shield Bill. We have a vision in the Salvation Army, and this is what we promise you if you will join us. That wherever there is hardship and injustice, Salvos will live, love and fight alongside others to transform Australia one life at a time with the love of Jesus. That is our vision. We promise that we will work hard at doing that. We ask you to join us in that vision. Help us to transform one life at a time. We can't transform a whole lot at a whole time, but we can certainly do one at a time, and we really need your help. So thank you for attending here today. Give yourselves a big hand, because without you, this wouldn't have happened. So thank you once again. Please enjoy a cuppa, whatever, chat with each other. As this is now concluded, you're more than welcome to stay as long as you want. Thank you.